Good evening, everybody. My name is Dondi West, and I'm a security analyst at Booz Allen Hamilton. Tonight, I will discuss a paper that I started writing at the University of Maryland School of Law in order to fulfill the law school's advanced writing requirements. In this paper, I argue that the current rules of war can address the emerging issues raised by cyber warfare. Before I begin, just a few quick caveats. First, the views expressed and the opinions expressed in this talk are mine and mine alone. They don't represent the views of Booz Allen Hamilton or any entity of the U.S. government. Secondly, this talk is for general information purposes only and is not intended to be and should not be taken as legal or consultant advice on any matter. My purpose here tonight is just to contribute towards what I think is an important topic and just to contribute to the debate. So what will we talk about tonight? First, I'll give an introduction to computer network operations and the actors that are involved. Secondly, I'll give a survey of the laws that I believe have the largest impact on cyber warfare. I will also give a little bit of brief commentary on some popular issues that I think intensify the cyber warfare debate. And then I'll get to the meat and potatoes of my paper, where I would give 5 reasons why I believe the U.S. should not enter into an international treaty for cyber warfare. Immediately upon taking office and in the midst of the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, President Obama commissioned a 60-day study to review the plans, programs, and activities related to cybersecurity. And an investigation of recent events show why securing cyberspace has been named a major national security priority of the Obama administration. First, we have all probably heard about the 2008 cyber attack against Georgia or the Estonia cyber war. It is now commonplace for cyber-related events to make the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I have a clip in there. And actually, when that clipping came out, just 2 or 3 days later, it was another cyber-related clipping. So I think as a whole, we all get the threat of cybersecurity. So that was just interesting. But the results of the 60-day study I thought was interesting. They included several near-term and mid-term action plans. One action item recommended that legal analysis be conducted concerning cybersecurity issues. However, this action item is rather broad and vague. In particular, under this action item, the government is not required to address the unique issues that arise as a result of cyber warfare. In fact, there remains an intense debate on whether there should be an international treaty for cyber warfare, hence the purpose of my paper. I will now give a brief introduction to computer network operations and the actors that are involved. So when you hear the word cyber, I think it's thrown around sort of loosely. I believe that analysts often discuss the concepts of cyber warfare and cybersecurity in overly broad terms. For example, if a cyber actor gains unauthorized access to a computer network and copies data, then a commentator may refer to this act as a cyber attack. But if the cyber actor is merely snooping and didn't alter the performance or content of the network, then a cyber attack hasn't occurred according to military doctrine, because cyber acts can be divided into 3 unique domains, collectively titled Computer Network Operations, or CNO. CNO is one of 5 core domains under information operations. The other 4 domains are psychological operations, or PSYOP, military deception, or MILDEC, operation security, or OPSEC, and electronic warfare. So just a little bit, a few more details about computer network operations. Under computer network operations, you have 3 more subdomains called computer network defense, computer network exploitation, and computer network attack. More information about these can be found in the Joint Pub 3-13, and the cover of it is seen on the slide. Below each one of those subdomains, I've included the formal definition out of the Joint Pub. That's a little bit long, so I'm gonna give you my version of the definition. First, CND, that's what most people are familiar with. That's just traditional computer security, such as deploying a firewall or some type of intrusion detection system. C&E, and the lines between C&E and CNA can sometimes be kind of blurry, but a good definition, a good easy to remember definition for C&E to me is that'll be like snooping, and you don't affect the performance or alter any the performance of the network, and you don't alter any data. And then CNA, the way I like to define CNA is that you are negatively affecting the performance or you're altering data of an information system. This paper is mainly concerned with CNA. So from henceforth, when I use the term cyber warfare, that's synonymous with computer network attack. Because again, when we're saying stuff about cybersecurity, that term can be really, really broad, and I want it to be understood that I'm referring to the laws related to computer network attack. So I promised myself that I was going to find a way to talk about Ravens football. I love the Baltimore Ravens. I'm a season ticket holder, a proud season ticket holder. With that said, I have what I call, so I have, when I was first learning this stuff, it's kind of dry. You know, when I first decided to, do this research in law school, at first I thought it was all sexy and all this stuff, and I found out this is simply military doctrine, and it kind of seems sort of dry. So I had to think of a fun way to remember these domains. So I call this the Dundee's football example to break down these three domains. So first, when we're talking Ravens football, right? C&D, that's Ray Lewis and company. So they're the protectors. C&D, that's pretty straightforward. CNA, that's Joe Flacco, Ray Rice. They're on the attack, ready to score. Now C&E, Dundee, what the world? Like, how can you relate C&E to football? Think real hard. You know who the C&E guys are. They are the guys that are up in the press box, sending down plays, calling in signals. One thing, Peyton Manning, for instance. If you watch Peyton Manning, he's always on the sidelines, and he's looking at pictures while the defense is on the field. Peyton Manning he's always looking at pictures. Those pictures are probably pictures taken from a blimp of plays and formations. He's essentially getting the intel from the press blocks. So that's how I like to remember C&D, C&E, and CNA, Dundee's football example. So a similar distinction must be made when we talk about the actors that are involved. For the purposes of this study, I considered two unique scenarios in order to limit the actors involved. First, a nation state versus a nation state. That may be a traditional conflict, a nation going against another nation. Secondly, we have a nation state versus a non-state actor. Now that one is a little bit more interesting, but a good way to remember that one is if you think about what happened post 9/11. Immediately after 9/11, I believe the next day, you had the UN Security Council Resolution number 1368, where basically a nation state was authorized to take action against a non-state actor, which were, terrorists. So for the purpose of this study, not really concerned with international cyber crimes, not concerned with a situation where it's a private hacker going against another private hacker. Another situation is attribution. So if we're going to talk about the scope of cyber actors, a good question is attribution. How do you know who's doing what on the internet? The internet is international. Attribution is a very, very important topic. I think it's probably the most important topic when it comes to cybersecurity. But, for the purpose of this study, I had to leave attribution as a separate and a unique issue. But I plan to include attribution in the future. So now I will talk about the laws of cyber warfare. So first, here's one interesting thing that I found out when I started this study. The laws of conventional warfare are applicable to the laws of cyber warfare. So to say that is to say, the same laws that govern shooting a missile also governs conducting cyber warfare. So I chose to divide it into two regimes. One, what are the laws pre-hostility, before a actual conflict begins? And what are the laws post-hostility, while a war is ongoing? So that's the way I divided up these laws. So pre-hostilities. The long and short of it is, under UN Charter, under the UN Charter, Article 2.4, there's basically a general prohibition against all uses of force. And I think the UN Charter is pretty clear on that. All uses of force. So how clear is that? Let me give a crazy example. If one nation was to get a soldier to pick up a pebble and throw that pebble towards the embassy of another nation, under the UN Charter Article, and it's a far example, and I don't know if two nations will actually go to war over a pebble being thrown, but I'm giving this example just to show a point. So a soldier throws a pebble at that at that embassy. Technically, the UN Security Council has the authority to sanction that act or to punish that act, to say that that act was an unlawful use of force. They more than likely, chances are they won't, but they have that power to say that it was. Now, there is an exception to that general prohibition against uses of force. That exception is under Article 51, it's the general right to self-defense. So to put those two rules together, and we're talking pre-hostilities war, to put those two rules together, there is a general prohibition against all uses of force except those sanctioned by the UN Security Council or authorized by the UN Security Council, or those done in self-defense. So that's pre-hostilities. So, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but that's very important because it's a lot of talk that I see going on about when is a cyber act a use of force. I think that may be sort of, it's not that important if you think about the UN's broad authority. Their authority is pretty much all uses of forces are prohibited, unless otherwise, noted as below. So post-hostilities, this is a little bit interesting because this is talking about the laws during an ongoing conflict. So basically, once two nations are in an armed conflict with each other, the laws of war applies. The law of war must apply in all operations, including cyber operations. So that's where that piece come in where I said the laws of conventional warfare are the same for cyber warfare. The law of war must apply in all military operations, including cyber operations. And here's another one. Only lawful military targets may be attacked. So in the conventional context, if a building was about to be bombed, that building must be shown to be a lawful military target. So the cyber equivalent to that is, before a computer can be hacked, before a network can be hacked, that network must be shown to be a lawful military target. So how do you tell what is a lawful military target? Well, combatant commanders are required to consider three principles. Those principles are distinction, balancing military necessity with humanity, and proportionality. So first about distinction. Under distinction, two concepts emerge. These are mainly that there must be a formal distinction between combatant and non-combatant commanders. And then secondly, and the one that I think is the most important, is that there is a duty to conduct warfare in manners that minimizes harms to civilians. So let's talk about distinction in the cyber context. In the cyber context, so we know that the internet is pretty much interconnected. So the chances are, if you want to attack something on the internet that is also serving a dual purpose to do something to assist civilians. So because of that, commanders must take reasonable steps to limit attacks on the part of the network used by the enemy. So a good example of that is if a virus was to be released in a network that's essential to a civilian function such as banking or electrical power. And, so even though you may have a military purpose to, attack that network, if that network is also servicing banking or electrical power, that likely violates the principle of distinction. And so second, military necessity and humanity. These are two parts. Necessity. An attack on a target must further legitimate military objectives or grant a definite military advantage. And on the humanity, the attack shouldn't cause unnecessary suffering. So in the context of cyber, let's say that someone, this is a hypothetical example, someone wanted to attack a power system or what many call a SCADA system. Here, To cross the threshold to legally do this according to military necessity, that's easy. You can easily argue that it's a military necessity. But, you know, let's throw out a